fun, huh? This is, yeah. I mean, let me tell you, 2020 has been my favorite year. Out of all the years, this has been the best one. I mean, there's aliens. They said there's UFOs. And no one cares. What kind of year could you have that you could sneak in? Hey, everybody, on the news, they're at the end of the news. They go, there's UFOs. And you're like, oh, do they have COVID? And you're like, I don't know. They won't get tested. But what's funny, I told my wife that. I said, they said there's UFOs, and she just went about her day. I mean, you might even watch this and be like, oh, I didn't even hear that. And that's the point. That's how amazing 2020 has been.
Hey guys, it's Kerry and Tiffany with the Joyride Show. We're back.
Hello. Yes, it's us, the Metaphysical Moms. We're here for another spin around the spiritual metaphysical block. And today I am bringing my toys to Kerry's sandbox because we're going to be talking about something that's been a passion and exploration, sort of that internal pull for a long time with Kerry, and that is her experience with aliens, UFOs, extraterrestrials, off-planet beings, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to be interviewing Kerry today to kind of talk about the journey that you've been on with this. The mental journey, the heart journey. What do you share? What don't you share? Like, how do you come to terms with this experiences that you're having and share it? Because that's what's happening to you. So where do we jump in?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, we're on Zoom because we're moms and we're having to.
I have a child with a fever, and we were going to be together today doing a show, and we're just like, pause, reroute, plan B. And so we're not together today, but we're together virtually. I mean, that's one of the benefits of COVID is that we're all able to kind of shift and pivot and do things virtually that we used to always do in person. So here we go.
Right. So I'm sending healing thoughts. Well, okay.
Thank
So
you.
I have been really grappling with all of this because I know that I just intrinsically, I know there are aliens. I know there are UFOs. I've videoed them now for the last 2 years, but for whatever reason, I won't put them out. And everybody's starting to put them out now. Like I'm seeing it on all these different Facebook pages. It's kind of going mainstream. And yet I'm not really comfortable trying to share all of this.
Okay, so here's what I think is the difference. I think a lot of people, and I think most rational people in the universe as large as we believe it to be, we're not the only life forms out there, intelligent life forms. I think a lot of people, I don't know what the statistics are, but believe in aliens. The difference is your communication, your contact, your signs, your being able to videotape, craft. That's the difference. So there's one thing to kind of conceptually believe, yeah, they probably exist, but to be able to like, well, there's disclosure, they're walking among us, like going down that, you don't have to go very far down any spiritual metaphysical rabbit hole before you find some off-world entity talking to us, some kind of alien life form. I want to know about your experiences. First of all, do you believe in all these aliens and UFOs? I mean, you said you've always intrinsically believed they're there.
You know, I do, because I'm sitting here thinking about you and I'm thinking, I know you believe, but then the difference, I know, and we've seen them and you've seen them. I mean, you see them, I think, more than I do. Yet I seem to want to engage more. Do you think that's true? I mean, like you find it interesting.
I find it, so we were talking about the head and the heart. And I can conceptually believe, yes, there are. We've laid out and seen winks and unexplained things in the sky that were like, okay, that was something. But I haven't felt the heart connection to it. Now, I do with people who channel people like Bashar and Seth and Abraham Hicks. But as far as craft and the different types of aliens that that are supposed to be above our planet, I haven't felt that heart connection to them. And I think that's the difference with us. You have felt that. You've always looked at the stars and felt that's home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really, I've never been the person that says, oh, I want to leave, or I really want to go home. I don't want to go home. I'm having a great time here. I'm having a fun time. Yeah. I mean, recently though, I have had a little more of that wistful, I don't know what home is, but it life has just been kind of crazy here on this planet
A lot of changes. Yeah. A lot of stress.
Yeah. So Tiffany, I don't know where to begin. Yes, I believe. And yes, I think we've seen evidence. And I think probably most of us have. Now, whether or not we put it in that context may be different. I think a lot of times people see things and they say, I don't know what that is. You know, it might be, might not be. I know that when I video them, a lot of times I'll go back through and I'll say, oh, that's a bug. Or that's like, I don't ever want to put anything out and then someone come back and say, oh, you know what? That's actually a gnat. And I would just be horrified because I don't want to put something false out there just to put it out there. And I now probably have hundreds of hours.
So tell us about your video where you learned it. Cause I know I talked a lot to Bill Spicer. And what do you see? What do you feel? Because it's more not just the head, but what do you feel when you're doing all of this? Tell us about your videoing experience.
So we're in May, almost exactly 2 years ago now. This gentleman, very sweet, reached out and he was telling me that he had had a dream and they guided him and showing him how to actually capture it on film. So he shares this. We have some shows online with him showing how to do this. So I started videoing and I have the best luck with my phone. And it's so funny because I always walk around with a lens ready to go. Like if I'm in carpool or.
So that's a polarized sunglass lens that has popped out and you put it over the camera and what does that do for the video?
Well, you can see them. I don't know why, but you can see them much, much better with this. And it's like a cheapy $5,
right?
You know. And anyways, I started recording and I would send them to Bill. Just these small clips, and I'll actually drop in some clips. These things go by so quickly, and you can actually see them pop in. Like there will be like a light, like a pink light or something, and kind of a flash, and they're there, and they don't move. Some of them, if they move like this, it's a bug, you know. Or
right.
if you can kind of see different. I've learned different patterns, and the most recent one is they'll come in and they'll do a sharp U-turn and go back out. I've had that like 3 times now, and I'll drop that in too. So what's interesting, and I just like to video them and I like to show people how to do it because everybody they're like, oh, did you see this? And look, and so if I ever send it to you, it like I said, they go by so quickly, these little flashes and tic tacs and sticks, and that you have to enlarge it, hit edit, and then go by frame, and then you can actually see them. And
because a lot of times you can't see it when you're just watching the video, you can't see it. But if you slow everything down and zoom in, you can start seeing things popping in and out.
Yeah. And one time, not one time, usually I'll no, not always, because if you're looking at the sun, obviously that's not a good thing. And so, but sometimes I can arrange myself so that I can't, so that I can actually watch the sky along with the camera and as it records. And you know, I see nothing. I mean, I don't see a bug. I see nothing. And I'll go back and it's like, oh my goodness, there's so much stuff here. And I had 2 days of recording just tons of stuff. And you and I, it was at the beginning of COVID, it was April last year, or the beginning of it for us. And you and I had hung out. I think we'd gone on a walk. And afterwards I left your house and I stopped by a mall, like an outdoor mall. So there were no trees because if you have trees and bushes and stuff, you'll have the bugs. So there were no trees. And I videoed, but the difference was, number one, I'd seen you. And so my heart was happy. And then I sat and I talked to them and I can connect, and you can feel when you do. It's like this chunk, and I've talked about that before, but it's like, oh, there you are. Sort of like when you're really hungry and then you eat and you're like, oh yeah, okay, there it is. And that's the way it sort of feels. But this time I said, now this is where I am. And I sent out this loving, and I always make sure that it's love and respect. And may I video you? Will you show yourself? Because I think they're up there all the time. Can't believe I'm saying all this, by the way. And I envisioned the world and then the continent and, us, Texas, Houston, kind of just whittled myself down. And after a while, and I recorded with a Nikon and I recorded with my phone, and I set them both up on a tripod, you know, they're tripods. And I watched the sky. And again, I didn't see anything. That time I had so many things, and more and more came in. Anyway, I'll post that one too. And it was incredible. But I think there is like I think you have to meet them. And when you really raise your vibration and you get into that heart space, happy, because I think we have this ability to push love out and push, you know what I'm saying? Like the high vibe out.
Absolutely.
And they answer the call. They'll answer the call. Because
so when you say they, do you get any sense, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, you finish your thought, but do you get a sense of who they are? Like, who are we contacting? Who's showing themselves?
So I've always had a really hard time with that. In my mind, I've seen beings before. I've seen beings.
Because you've had dreams on crafts, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have that quite a bit, and I know because the way I translate them when I wake up, it's almost like when you come back through the veil, you get back into your human brain, and so it has to fit in the context of our brain. And so it's either I'm in a mall, I'm in a hotel, I'm in something with compartments, and oftentimes it's blue. Like there's a lot of blue, and the building is blue, the rooms are blue, which is sort of an indicator for me. I don't exactly know. I know it's my family somehow. I know it's, and when I say that, I don't know. And this is the part that I'm trying not to do. I'm trying not to try to fit it together and make it make sense. Right. Because when I do that, I pop into my brain and I start thinking and analyzing, and my brain only knows what it knows. And when I'm down back in my heart space, it's much, I don't know, it's just softer, and I can allow, and then things start to really happen. So Arcturian, I think, I mean, if we have to put, I don't know. So I don't know.
No, that's a great answer. And it's an, I don't know, but what I love is when we try to get in our head and rationalize and logically think all this, it's confusing. It's there, like you said, there's no place to put it, but when you feel it in your heart and you get that full home, satisfied kind of feeling, that's got to be amazing to feel that, and to follow that vein, and to know that keeps producing more of the same, or that's like the little golden path to keep following. If it feels good, if it feels comforting, if it feels like do they feel like they are imparting information to you, or they're just giving you a little, you're okay, you're doing a great job? I mean, do you feel like you get, I know you're getting visuals, but do you get information from them? Because I know you do a lot of writing. Do you feel like that all ties in?
You know, it has to. I mean, it just has to. I don't know. I know that there have been a couple of folks that I think are pretty amazing, that readings from the last few years ago. I know there was one person, and she didn't know I had a show. It was a kind of a blind thing. You and I met her in Sedona, and we didn't actually meet her. She was speaking at something. You and I went hiking. We didn't actually even hear them speak. And it was interesting because when I spoke with her, it was probably 3 months after that. We were on the phone, not on Zoom. And she said, "Do you look like this?" And she told me what I looked like. And she said, I saw you on a ship." And I've had that a couple of times where people will say, "You were there." And it's like, really? You know, and again, I don't know where to put all of that. And it's just an interesting thing. So what was the question again you were asking?
No, you did. You answered the question. It was, I'm fascinated with this. Head, logically, what do I say? I sound crazy if I share this, but my heart knows it's true, so I want to share it. And that was one of the big themes that we keep in all metaphysics. People are having experiences, whether it's communicating with their loved ones or having out-of-body experiences, and logically you don't know what to do with that, but heart-wise you know it's true. If you feel true, and it's usually very beneficial to have those experiences. It's kind of opens you up.
Okay.
So
I have something to say.
I was asking you about your writing, if the writing felt connected to this.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I don't know. See, I always wonder, is it like, I don't know the difference. And again, I'm popping back into my head, but the difference, but sometimes I think you have to pop into your head to get the questions, because, and I think the questions, I think that's a really valid point that I'm making to myself. But yes. And I wonder if they are beings from a different dimension, or if they're quote aliens. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we're starting to split hairs, or if it's my higher self, or if most of me lives somewhere else, which I think we do. And this is a little tiny part of, human experience. And it feels very big to us because this is where we are. Or if there are multiple timelines, and, we're existing on all these different timelines. I mean, there's so many, it really is mind. It can make you crazy.
The logical mind can't really process that, because we just know what we know here and now in the solid labeled world. So I love that you're open to feeling all this, being willing to experience it. And now, we've been talking a lot about sharing. How do you share this information? You've been sharing your videos, and tell me about we've talked about some of the reluctance to share, and when and why. And so where are you with that?
Well, I do live in a world that's very pragmatic and very practical. And I think you and I have always kind of framed the show with the idea, like, how do you live with a foot in both worlds, the seen and the unseen? And somewhere I've gotten off track. Somewhere I've overthought it, and I've tried to figure out the next step. And I realize now I live in my brain, I mean, so much of the time, and I'm always trying to translate things, and I'm always trying to make sense of things and contextualize things. And I love it when I'm in my heart. And I just didn't see that I'd flipped it from being in my heart most of the time, switching into my head. And now I'm in my head most of the time. And so
your heart.
I'm trying to get into my heart, and I'm trying to experience life from that space, because everything's okay in that space. It just is. And I know, and I'm not making small of people that are going through a really rough time. I just want to say that. I want to be sensitive to that. But I think that you and I just sharing our stories and going back and forth, I know that when it's just us, it just makes me feel good. It's almost like there's something being spoken that we're not saying with our words. It's just, our words are so, I mean, they're just so, what's the word? Like archaic.
Limited. Yes.
Yes. And so I don't know, I mean, it is, I'm ready to start sharing, and I'm ready to start, I don't know what that looks like, because it really just occurred to me last night. So what's kicked this off? And I feel compelled to say this. I was a little bit lost, kind of in the, what is it, in the woods, or kind of like
in the weeds,
maybe. And I had set up a session with Bonnie McCliss. And it's funny, because I had my session, and I mean, I called you, I was angry. She did not give me what I wanted, but she gave me what I needed. And she said, basically, you need to get out of your head, and you need, stop, that you need to start just not trying to make it all fit. And I mean, she said it in a very different way. And there was, I mean, she's just so brilliant in the way she brings it through. And I thought, okay, so does this mean am I not supposed to write? Am I not supposed to talk to my guides? I don't know what this means. And so really for the last week or so, I haven't spoken to my guides. I've just been sort of on like a push pause. So last night when you and I were talking about the show, I started writing, and I found myself writing from the first person, not from the, like, normally it's a Q&A where I will ask a question and then they answer. I was just writing, and it was almost like it was coming from me, but I think it was always coming from me. It's all the same source, right? Maybe. Anyway.
That gets right to the heart of it. We try to think it, but when you're feeling it and you know it, why do we have to question it and label it? There's so much coming out right now with disclosure. There's videos coming out. There's, that bill that got signed saying that they have to release all of the UFO files. I mean, this stuff is.
When did they do that? Was that
When Trump? No, when Trump left and they signed that bill saying within 18 months they have to disclose all of the files, classified files. I'll find the link to exactly what they're asking, but you knew that. It was like they said that. You're going to make me look it up now because I know I'm saying it terribly, but that we should be expecting disclosure pretty imminently. I mean, that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. So for someone to be having personal experiences, I mean, this goes back to the cabinets in the light
kitchen
geometry in your kitchen cabinets. You've been experiencing things like this for a long time and getting messages. Like you had said, show me a sign that this is all real, that I'm not making this up. And the very next morning, there's this beautiful geometric design reflecting off your Fiesta ware in the back of your cabinets. And you're like, it's the eye, it's the all-seeing eye. And that's, so you ask and you receive, and then we doubt. It's like we know, and then we question it, and then do I share it? And it's this crazy making feeling. But I think we're coming out of it now to say, yes, it is. Yes, I know. Yes, I can share confidently that this is what I'm feeling. So I don't know what the question is in there, but it's just reconciling the inner and outer world. How do you do that?
You know, and that is a process. And I think that to believe, she had asked me, she said, so what will it take for you to believe? And backing up a bit, when we spoke with Nancy, you always say it well.
Detertra?
Yeah. She had said something, I'd written her something, and I was like experiences. Then at the end I said, oh yeah, and I've had these. And I told her about the cabinet, and I told her about some things. She's like, that was your PS? She said, these are amazing. And it bothered me, not her, but it bothered me that it's like, I have had these experiences. And if anybody else had had the same thing happen and if they were telling me about it, I'd be like, oh, that is so cool. But when it happens to me, it's like, you know, and I keep moving, and I never want to define, but I think some of that is ego. Like I never want to be more than I am. I mean, and it feels like, or maybe it's what I've done in the past where I meet somebody like James Van Praagh. I'm like, oh, James Van Praagh, you know, and especially when you first start to wake up. I mean, we're just so starstruck with this, and it's based on the experiences they've had. And it's not that I don't value them. I just don't know how to put it together. And I don't want to be defined. I don't want to define myself by that. You know, I am a blank. I mean, I've always stayed out of those structures. I've tried to, I never wanted to get pigeonholed into, I do one thing. So I'm all over the place, and I know that. But it is, what would have to happen for you to believe? And I think my answer is, I just have to believe. I mean, I just have to. And that's last night, what I kind of came up with is, or what I was, when I wrote, it's like, what if I just believe? What if I don't have to believe? I mean, what if it just is what it is, and quit putting it outside of myself? Because I think so many of us have these experiences, and at first it's, you don't even know it happened. Then you're like, wait a minute, did I just see that? And then it is, do I believe that I just saw that? And then it just becomes part of who we are. But I think for me, I'm realizing I don't have to try to fit it together. I don't have to create a picture. I already know the picture. By trying, you know, what is it? Don't try, just do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And so what is believing? So what is the belief that, yes, we're not alone, there's ETs out there and they're communicating with me? What does that do for you if you say, yes, I believe?
Oh, wow. You know what? When you said that, I feel myself, getting on the roller coaster, then hopping off. Oh, fuck, I don't know. You know, and it goes back to those experiences that I've had, and where the woman with the red hair and the two men, and I've told you this, and I know I've told this on the show. You know, I'm walking down the street, and I see the chain link fence and the little daisies, and I come to a house, an older Victorian style house, and I go inside, and there's a party to the right, and big sweeping staircase to the left, and I go up the stairs. Somehow I know to go upstairs, and I go up, and these people that I've seen before, I've had dreams when I was really, really, really sick with a really high fever. They were in my dream, and it's the same group. And they said, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And I get on a tram, and it's just me. And I turn around and I get off. And I was so elated. I mean, just thinking about it gives me chills. I was so happy. And I said, "I'm not ready."
No, wait, you get on the tram.
I get on the
and
tram.
then you
It's like
turn
a
around.
roller coaster. It's like a roller coaster, but it's inside. And I get on and I sit down, and then I get up and I get off. And they were
So
standing.
you never did the ride.
I woke up with that elated feeling, and I couldn't make that up. Like nothing in that dream, it didn't make sense to feel that way. So that's what I've always held on to. And I feel like you're going back to your question, getting on the tram. It's like, to believe it is saying yes to walking through the next gate. And thank you. I didn't feel this way.
Is there any downside to feeling that way? I mean, to say, yes, I believe I'm getting on that tram. You have that elated feeling that you've already experienced. I just wonder what that tram symbolizes for you.
It's the fear of the unknown. And it used to be a fear of being crazy or being seen as crazy. But I think it used to be a fear that it would somehow take me away from my family and my duties or what I came here to do. Because clearly I came here really wanting to experience being a mom and being a wife and routine, which I don't like, but I clearly need. I think that by saying yes, I'm saying yes to the next level of the game, of the video game. Like Skylanding.
And what if all of your talents and abilities and the way your brain's wired, the way your energy works, what if that was all perfectly suited for this next level, and that we need that here?
Well, that would be pretty cool.
That's what's coming down the line.
So you know what I keep saying?
Tell me.
Actual contact. I mean, I quit recording for a while because I was like, okay, I know you're there. I know you're there. I want to see you. Like, I really want to interact. And I'm sure they're laughing, going, you do all the time. But
I have goosebumps.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's next. I mean, I know people that have actually had beings walk through their walls. I mean, and that's I can't imagine. Do you remember when, I don't know if it was Patrick DeHaan that we spoke with? It was someone, and I kept saying, now, did you see them in this world or the other world? For some reason, that to me is because it takes it out of imagination and it puts it into this concrete space that we are currently in. And to me, that feels like such a big deal.
I feel like, though, we have it backward. This concrete 3D world is the make-believe, and the imagination world is the truth and all its different versions. And we hold, I don't know, that's what's coming to me, is we hold this to be so truthful. And if I can see it and weigh it and measure it and quantify it and label it, then it's true. So, I mean, I remember when we were talking to Georgia O'Connor, because she's a medium who sees spirit. And the only way she could know if it was real or not is if she could see a woman sitting in a chair. If she closed her eyes and she still saw her, she knew she was not physically there, but she looked just as physical as the chair. But if she closed her eyes, she could still see her. So which one is more real? Isn't that, I don't know.
It's true though.
And I've had so many dreams that feel so real. Like you said, the detail, the exquisite detail, the sensations, the movement, that feels so real, that who's to say which one is and which one isn't. And so you being brave and honest and authentic and sharing and saying yes to this feels really exciting to me. And you're not going to go anywhere. And if you do, we'll come find you, and I think you've got a very firm, grounded situation set up where you have the opportunity now to go explore and play to the benefit of humanity, to help us understand. I think that if we're going to have disclosure now, it's here for them to help us kind of grow up and mature emotionally and help our planet and help us kind of just, get out of our cantankerous toddler phase. We're crashing and smashing and fussing so much.
I think you're right. And I think that it is, I think you're right on the disclosure thing, which by the way, and I don't know if I can drop this in because it's YouTube for the copyright stuff, but I was watching this guy, it was stand up on Netflix, and I love watching that. It makes me happy. And this guy was like, this has been such a weird year. We had disclosure, the news, all over the news, and nobody, it's like, oh yeah, okay, aliens are here. And it's, and I laughed, I recorded it, I went back and I recorded it so that I could share it. And I would like to do that. And I think it is kind of becoming more of a mainstream thing, but contact, I think, is a different story. And I know that, I want to talk, I'm going to shift here just for a minute because I can feel it and I've never been able to discern the difference. So when I talk about the thinking brain versus the feeling heart, my thinking brain is the one that tells me I'm not enough. My thinking brain is the one that analyzes and starts to push play on all those old tapes and will tell me, oh my gosh, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. It's the one that jumps to the worst case, or it jumps to, oh, why did I say that? Or, and the thinking brain is the one that says, okay, what is my next step? What does it look like to meet an alien? What is it, alien, we're probably the aliens, but what does it look like? What would it be like? That's the thinking brain, because I'm trying to fit that experience into that only what it knows, that framework. And you and I were, we're really turned on by Seth. And I love what he says. At one point he says, the thinking brain only knows what's already happened. It only knows what it can see. But the feeling heart is where, and I think that's what Bonnie was asking me to do, which is fall into the trust of the feeling heart. Trust it. Trust yourself. And I think too, at the beginning of waking up, I did see a couple of people kind of fall apart, kind of like their foundations, and no judgment. But I saw it happening, and it's it's like kind of losing the grip on the reality and how to stay in this world. And I never wanted that to happen. That's what I think I really mean by it taking me away.
Right.
But so going back and trusting that you do know, you've got this, you do know, and you do know that the next step will be revealed. You do know that everything will be okay. Even if it's not what you would think is okay, even if it means that I leave this planet because I, got hit by a car, it's okay. It really is okay. And it's divine. And so there are all of these different pieces that play in, and it's letting go of what it's supposed to be. That's it. And I didn't stutter once. That was from my heart. And I don't stutter. My head tangles shit up. And so I have chills. So anyway, so I think that's a really
thank you for that.
Well, thank you, honey. Thank you for this, for giving me space to do this. I mean,
so I know you believe that aliens are walking among us anyway. You've seen them. Like that dude is from somewhere else. Like his energy or there's something about him. So we talk all about this contact. I think we're going to be surprised to realize that we're swimming in it. I see that documentaries about the octopus or something and octopi, and I'm like, if there's an alien, that's an intelligent life form right there. Right. That Earth is this living library of all these different species, all the way from the insects to the single cell to the birds and fish. We're such a variety. What if those are all aliens too? Different types of life forms having a completely different experience than us living on planet.
I love that.
So I don't know this. I love this conversation about feeling it from the heart. And when you're so authentic and you feel from the heart and your head doesn't tangle stuff up, how do we do that with everything? Because I know I've had amazing like readings with a medium, and in the moment I believe it and it's so true. And then that doubt starts creeping in. You start Googling like, oh, they could have found that information there, or they could have found, somehow they've posted it or they've tracked me and they know. I don't believe any of that anymore, but I know in the beginning, it was really hard to trust that knowing without feeling like you're being vulnerable or gullible or someone's going to take advantage of it. Yeah. You're going to be duped.
Okay. So what is that? So what is behind that? Is it, because I think we can go even deeper. Is it that you don't want to believe and then not believe, then believe, then find out it's fake? Is it that you don't want to really, really realize that at some point that this is it? Like we die and we're worms. I mean, we're worm food. Like what is behind that fear for folks, or at least for you?
I have always been fascinated by energy, magic. For a long time, it scared me, but I've always known it existed. And so the feeling would be for me to think I made it all up, like that this magic doesn't exist. And that this spirit, the communication, the astral travel, like that all of that's just made up. Because I know it's not. I don't even think that's making sense what I'm trying to say. No, it would be the idea that the magic isn't real, because I've always loved that idea that's magic and I want to play with it and I want to learn how to do it, and not Harry Potter kind of stuff, spells, but just this beautiful, invisible, unseen world going on behind us. We're very logical in our laws and our rules. And then there's stuff that defies it and we don't know why. There's so much mystery. I've always loved the mystery. So I don't want that to be fake.
What if it is fake? Let's just play that for 2 seconds.
I can't even conceive a world where that's fake. I see it in everything. I see the magic, the mystery, the miracle. I just saw that mama butterfly come and laying eggs and like near miss from all this little tiny magical, mystical things that are just, I don't know, they enchant me. I can't imagine not having that.
I just saw when you said that, and you get some magic and you get some magic, and then, and I wonder if that's not to a small degree what it is. Mitch always said, it's not, you have to see it to believe it. You have to believe it to see it.
Santa Claus, you got to believe it. You got to believe to receive.
No, that's true. And so I would like, just for a moment, because I would like to put this framework out there. By the way, that was beautiful and I could see it. And if you're on her Facebook, she has posted that this Daisy, this beautiful little kitty, and Daisy's like trying to swat at the butterfly.
She almost got it. You should have heard me shriek. No, don't eat the butterfly. It's a beautiful, magical moment, and then done. It's gone.
That's having boys too. Well, so I want to create a world just for a moment of what it would look like to live in a galactic UN, here on this planet. Yes. So I remember I was on my way back from a trip with my mom, and we're on a plane, and I was writing, and the guides had said, and I've talked about this before, but they had said, it's time. It's time. You guys, it's time for you to take the seat at the big boy table. It's time to be responsible. It's time. I mean, because, with your 6-year-old, you don't expect them to do more than they can do. But at some point, if they're 12, still doing what they're doing when they're 6, it's time. You have to kind of,
mature.
Sand the edges off. Right. So that's what they had said. So that's when that's when I've got that. And look, there are so many things. And this is what, again, I can feel myself pop up here, then pop back down here. I'm not going to know. I'm not going to know how that looks, because I find myself saying, oh, well, what if we, project out, and what if we're out and we're projecting in, and and start playing with all these different ideas. But so many of our ideas come from what we see in the movies, or we, the Matrix. And I think that really resonated, and that turned a lot of us on. And so if we play with that concept of what would it look like, I mean, and we may have it completely wrong, but I want to ask you that first. So if, let's just say in 20 years, there has been disclosure, everybody freaks out, but then everything kind of settles down and they realize nobody's going to eat our brains. They could have done that from day one. What would that look like to you in your fantasy world?
I would imagine a cleaner environment. They've given us ways to have cleaner energy and to eat healthier, clean up our air and our water, our land, our soil, our waste, like things that we've never even thought of before, of ways to handle that stuff and process it. And in a world where we didn't have billions of dollars spent on national defense, and that money, because we weren't fighting each other. Like, we knew that the border lines are arbitrary and everybody has the right to their own culture, and it doesn't mean you've got to threaten each other, right? And if that time and energy wasn't spent on defense, it could be spent on creativity and nurturing the children and healing ourselves, going through it just seems more peaceful and way less aggravated. I know we came here for the diversity and the conflict, and we learned so much, but I think I would like to learn through joy and discovery and peace and creativity.
Montessori.
versus worrying without the threat that we're going to just annihilate each other at any minute, or the viruses are going to annihilate, or so the weapons or the environment, we're going to melt off the planet here soon. It's I don't know, but that all makes it very precious too, all of because we're mortal, because there's a time limit. But I feel like we're just, I don't know, I'm going off onto all these different tangents. I can feel my brain spinning. What would a world look like to you with some guidance?
Well, I don't think that people are coming to save us. When you were saying that, what I was feeling was that, what if there's another place that we can do that? What if you want that experience? Because I do fully 100%, 1000% know that we are sitting in a jewel box. We are on a jewel box planet. And whether they're, the dimensions, the realms, all that stuff, but this planet as a planet is a destination. So we are already in the Garden of Eden just by being here. But what if you wanted to experience the ups and the downs and kind of the world that we've been in, you could go somewhere else. And that's what I have understood. Everyone talks about 5D and all that. And I'm not trying to play that down. I just think that it's just, again, we have to have our little containers in our boxes, and we have to have that framework. That's where our brains work. But what if you wanted to experience the hardships and the all that stuff, we can go somewhere else, that's what we said about coming here. And now, for what reason, I don't know, I feel like we're being asked to go as a group to the next spot, to the next place. Like, okay, guys, it's now cleanup time. The party's over. Now we're cleaning up, and because the people are coming back. The people that really live here are coming back, and you've had a rager the night before, and you need to get all this beer bottles cleaned up and put everything back. And so I like to think that that's sort of what it's like. And then the little gangsters are going to head on down, whoever that is, I don't know, or anybody that wants to experience that. But I am not someone that can see, like people would say, what do you want your ideal wedding to be like? I don't know. It's going to depend on, I could never see that far into.
Yeah, me neither.
So to help create that framework is really great for me. I like to think that's where we're going to a place that you just described, which I love. And I would love to think that we do see big beings walking down the street.
It's like Men in Black,
That's what I was thinking too.
The bar at Star Wars where all the different species are sitting there and hanging out.
Wouldn't that be beautiful?
I mean, what I love is the discovery of how to do something better. Like, for instance, Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer, he has a way of communicating with animals that he just gets it. He speaks their language and he's able to dissipate all of these. He's like, I don't see people with dog problems. I see dogs with people problems. So he teaches the people how to adjust their energy so that they can understand how to live with a dog. A dog needs this. And once you get that, it's like light bulbs go off. You're like, this is pretty simple, really, if you understand the concept. That's what I feel like we could use, is just some, and that's what I feel like all of the teachers that are like Bashar and Abraham Hicks and Seth and Cryon, all these people are giving us some other concepts of how to be. And that's what lights me up. My heart just bursts open, like, oh, wow, you can really do it that way. Leading from the heart. And then when you start putting it into practice here and you actually see it working, that's what gets me so excited. So I do believe that they are here and they're giving us the information in different ways to behave differently, to get different outcomes, different systems and thought patterns that we hadn't occurred to us before. And then once you get the concepts and start practicing it, it's peaceful. You can live with your dog in peace. He's your best friend instead of tearing up the house. So I feel like we need that with ourselves, with our environment, with our relationships. Like, we need these other concepts that we just haven't come up with yet, or we haven't matured into yet. But you've met people and they live a life in a certain way that just, you're like, that. It's not you specifically, but the concepts that you live with, the way you treat yourself or other people, the decisions that you made. I love that. And once you see it, it's almost like gives you permission. It's like, what's that 100? As soon as somebody breaks the 4-minute mile, then everybody can you've given permission to do it. And then all of a sudden it becomes a possibility for everybody.
Isn't that crazy?
That's kind of what I feel our benevolent sky family is trying to teach us. These other ways to behave and do things, technology to make it better. I mean, we're human. We're so human. I don't think we're ever not going to be human in the way, but we can mature. We don't have to stay as destructive and as self-centered. And I don't know. That's where I go. That's what my fantasy future looks like, is that we figure it out. And the beauty is in the discovery and the engagement of it, and actually putting this stuff into practice and kind of taking that next step. That's not like somebody's going to come and save us, but they're going to be like, like a parent guiding you. Yeah. Well, and then we get it.
So when we were 9, it probably never occurred to us that one day we would, have our own families. I mean, yes, theoretically, we're going to grow up at some point, hopefully. But then it's so incremental that you find yourself there. I never thought I'd be 50, and I'm 50. I didn't know what 50 looked like, but here I am. I'm 50, and it's and I feel like it's the same thing. It is. I think we are incrementally getting there. I mean, I think we're getting there. I think we're on. I mean, I choose to believe that one shift. If everybody did one little shift, if everybody did another little shift, and instead of squishing that bug, you put it on a little card and you took it outside. I mean, that's a silly thing. Every day. Or you there's a child crying, you stopped and try to find out what's going on. I mean, just these little seemingly goofy acts of kindness, they add up. And I know it's much more than that. I do. But
it really isn't though. It isn't though. All of those random little millions of acts of kindness become who we are.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. And so I was gonna share when I wrote last night. I'm sorry, my eyes are. We need to have a talk with my eyes. Okay, so the thinking brain, it must translate, and that's where the framework comes in. If the framework isn't already there, then it can't translate it. It must try. It's what's trying. Must fit the puzzle pieces together to form what you understand, to try to understand something.
And it also fills in the blanks where it doesn't know. It's going to fill in information and come up with your own story, even though, okay, keep going. I'm just
I'm laughing at that. It's like, oh, he's so good with animals. He's going to be a great daddy. Really? Not necessarily. Okay. And then the thinking brain feels like it's never enough. It's never engaging enough, funny enough, smart enough, deep enough, pretty enough, etc. That's the thinking brain. The feeling heart, it just knows. It speaks without a filter. It doesn't need to explain. Trusts. It allows you to trust your eyes. It feels no need to push back. It believes that there's a flow. This morning is a perfect example. There was a flow. Instead of trying to fit something together, you just flowed. And that's the feeling heart. And it doesn't need to jump ahead to project an outcome. And it is enough. It believes. It's curious. It does not see things projected on a line. It does not try to, because I think the whole reason we try to, we try to head off pain, you know.
We try to predict the threats, and yes.
Correct. Like,
constantly.
Yes. Yeah. And then you kind of end up creating it. And I love this saying, and this is where I'll stop. It doesn't really fit here, but I just love this saying. There was a movie, and it was about a chef, and he was Indian, and he moves to France, and I just love that movie. And he says, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I believe that you're going to get the lesson, you know? And so if it's hard still, you haven't gotten the lesson. There's still some work to do.
That's such a great, simple motto to be. And Bonnie had said something. She said, just be still and know. And that has just resonated so much with me. Even if I feel like there's something that's upsetting me, like, you know, does my son have COVID? I'm being able to more easily just be still and know that everything's going to be okay. It's all okay. It's all good.
Can I weigh in on that?
Yeah.
So when you first told me that, it's like, oh no, you know, because Daniel can't get the COVID shot. I mean, it's just not a good idea. But then I thought, if he runs a fever for a day and he's fine and he doesn't have the shot, but now he has the antibodies.
I know. And that would be a best case scenario.
Yeah, we tried so hard for him not to get it. I mean, we wouldn't want him to get it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go get our COVID test in 30 minutes and see, and just praying. And probably won't even put this out there, but just, it's all good. I'm just, okay. I'm happy that I feel at peace in the midst of this, because I could be right now be a total nervous wreck and canceled our time this morning. And so it's all good. I'm just trusting. It's that heart feeling. I'm just trusting that it's all good. And, you know, we've been reading Seth about the magical approach to life. Mm-hmm. And I was speaking earlier about how much I love magic. So I'm actually trying to walk my talk and practice these for putting out there the paths, the energy, the patterns that I want, and following through and just trusting in them and not getting so off in these weeds. And some things, man, it's hard. It's really exciting. That feels like the magic when living from that heart space, things fall into place that you would never have expected to. That's where I'm at.
Well, honey, you embody that, and you show me that all the time. I mean, you truly are just a master, and I am just honored to be walking this with you.
You're so sweet. Thank you. I'm really honored that you shared your truth today about your experience, your willingness to sit in carpool with your sunroof open, videotaping for alien craft, and having a foot. I mean, that's a foot in both worlds right there simultaneously. And being able to share that. I think that we've talked about this many times, that one of your gifts here is to help people see patterns and help transmute patterns that aren't serving and bring in new ones. And the way your brain works, your energy works, the way you think and feel and express yourself is so perfect and needed. And it's just right on time. And thank you for being you and sharing you. And even though sometimes it feels, you're doing perfect.
Thank you, honey. Thank you. All right. Well, guys, this has just been a
we just
fun,
literally
pulled it out.
Just kibitz for an hour. So hopefully you guys stayed with us. And I think we all go through such similar things, you know, whatever you're going on in your life, but we all have such similar experiences in the way we react. We want to encourage you to be authentic and live from your heart. And we're not trying to be preachy here. We're just saying this is what's working for us. And you know, that thrill of exhilaration of getting on the tram or living in the magic. Say yes to it. We want to say yes. So come tell us your stories, and we want to hear your magical stories too.
Please do. I love the comments. I love the comments. We have such sweet, kind people with us. I mean, it is. I'm just honored.
That's our magical joyride.
It is.
On a tram this time.
Yeah, we're on a tram. Yep. All right. Well, guys.
All right, Kerry, my dear.
Thank you. And yep. Good luck. And
all good. Thank you.
We'll see you guys later. Y'all take care. Bye.